And we are back live with another snack pack on the Lakers Fast Break Network. And I am with you with Lakerholics.com extraordinaire, Mr. Yami Swoot, who's joined us for a very quick snack pack. Mr. Yami Swoot is just returning from lunch. Hopefully, it was hearty and nutritious.
Better than the chips in the intro.
All right. Jamie, yesterday was a wild night in the City of Angels. It was a wild night. The Lakers did not come out with the kind of intensity we all anticipated or thought they would have. But when you have a 38-year-old LeBron James and at times a contemplative Anthony Davis when it comes to effort and all-out hustle, you just don't know sometimes. Sometimes it's good soup, sometimes it's bad soup. We got some bad soup to start out the game, Jamie, but somehow, some way, the Lakers fought back. And it was a night of the others, man. As it was a night of the others. And the big other was Lonnie Walker IV, and we just keep applauding Lonnie Walker IV's effort. And Mr. Yami Swoot, I want to hear how was the party over the weekend when you saw them win Game 3, and how did you feel about yesterday's victory?
Well, I was at my friend Matt's birthday. He turned the ripe old age of 47, and it was great. There were some Laker fans I hadn't seen in a while, and all the people who didn't want to watch basketball went and hung out by the grill. So it was actually kind of perfect.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and it was nice because there's two types of fans, in my opinion. There's people who just are like fans. They like the Lakers. But if you ask them questions about the Lakers, they're like, oh, is he still on the team? Or what about this guy? And things of that nature. And that's fine. There's no judgment. But when you're talking with somebody who's like, well, we got to pick up the option for this guy this year, or we're going to lose that cap space for nothing, and yada, yada. That's a different level of discussion that opens up a whole host of topics that people who are borderline, have a Laker mania. I don't want to call it a disease because I enjoy it very much, but whatever you want to call it, Laker mania about them. Now we can talk, right? Now we can get into it. Now we can start, dishing and chatting, and it was a lovely time. And that game, even though it was over by the fourth quarter, I still wanted to. I watched it all the way to the end at the party, not to be a malcontent or a party pooper, but because I wanted to see how the Lakers' tertiary players responded in that moment. Did they hang their heads because they're not playing all the time? Did they, all just go for their own shot and not really play much defense? Did they let the Warriors, knock 10 points off that 30-point lead? No, they stood their ground. They played some pretty tough basketball. They got called for like 5 fouls in 48 seconds at the beginning of garbage time, which was basically the refs being like, first 3 quarters look pretty bad. Let's even this up a little bit, shall we? And so that's how it felt to me anyway, because we did have a pretty large foul shot disparity and fouls called on us disparity. But by the end of that game, you looked at it, including garbage time, and you thought, oh, well, it's pretty close. I would argue that if you looked at the first 3 quarters, you would see a little bit more of the disparity that some Warriors fans are harping on. We'll get into that style of play. We'll get into why our style of play influences that so dramatically, I guess, later. But what I loved about that into that game 3 is that there was no whatever in the Laker tertiary players. And it started with Lonnie Walker, who has scored, I think, all of his points in the fourth quarter in this entire series. I don't think he has any 1 through 3 points at all. He is Mr. Fourth Quarter in this series. And in the garbage time, you're like, hey, good job. He had positive contributions in game 3 where you were like, hey, he's playing some good defense. He's not like forcing his offense. He's taking the shots in the flow of the offense. And I was fine with that. Yeah. He didn't have the greatest efficiency in game 3, but then once he was still playing in the fourth quarter in garbage time. Thanks, Alex. And I mean, we're up 3-1. We got one more. We'll talk about my optimism later there, Alex. It always hinges on a lot of factors. It's never just like, I'm never REM smiling happy people holding hands. There's always a demon lurking somewhere under there, just below the surface. But Lonnie kind of found his shot late in that garbage time, and then again in this game, played a little bit in the first half, played a little bit in the third quarter, didn't score, felt his way into the game, and then the Lakers, it looked like he bailed him out on that 5-second shot. There's another shot where he was open for three and he took the shot and he made it. And then he took it up a notch. He started attacking the Warriors one-on-one. And that was something I don't think Golden State was prepared for in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I'm sure they talked about it on some film session or some coaches meeting or, hey, when this guy comes in, remember, Lonnie likes to drive and can shoot from the outside, but he's not playing. So, it's one of those assignments that I think could easily be glossed over. Had it been Max Christie, right? Had Max Christie come in and done all these wonderful things, everybody been like, well, we didn't really game plan for Max Christie. Kind of like how Memphis in the first series didn't really game plan for Rui Hachimura at first. They're like, oh, that guy, he might score 6 or 7 points, but we can absorb that. But when he goes off for 20 in 2 different games, that's a different beast to handle. Now you've got a game plan for it on the fly, and you maybe don't have the personnel to now stretch your defense like that. And that's what the Lakers have kind of accomplished in these playoffs, is that you could look at 4 different guys right now and say, okay, if LeBron and AD do their job, and if one of D'Angelo Russell or Dennis Schroeder does their job, we need one guy, whether it's Reeves, whether it's Hachimura, whether it's Lonnie Walker, or whether it's Jared Vanderbilt. All 4 of those have had games where they were the quote-unquote X factor, where they came in, either played a disruptive role on defense, scored enough points to overcome another superstar's point total like Clay or Wiggins or Poole, something that neutralizes that punch that Golden State has in those 4 guys. The problem with Golden State is after Poole, the talent drop-off is significant. Your next best guy is Moody or Kuminga, and Kuminga hasn't really seen the floor, so I guess it's Moody. Although they play, I think, just because of size and role fit, they play JaMychal Green more than Moody, I think, or about the same. But none of those guys are stopping Lonnie Walker IV. He's blowing past both those guys. He's faster, he's more athletic, and he's got shots from the 3-point line all the way in. He's not like Shannon Brown. He's not primarily a dunker. He's not like even like a John Morant, where he's got to be kind of like going downhill towards the basket. You can kick it out to Lonnie just standing there, and he can catch and shoot threes. That's huge. I mean,
Absolutely.
They're going to win a 3-point contest doing that? No. But the spacing and the pressure that it applies to the defense in the playoffs is a problem.
And Jamie, what really struck me last night after the game, and I had a little bit of reflection time like everybody else, but what was amazing to me is that the 5 guys on the floor for the Lakers at the end, your 2 max guys, which they should be on the floor, obviously.
Better be on the floor.
Better be, you're right. Then you have a vet minimum player in Dennis Schroeder. You have your MLE in Lonnie Walker, who you buried on the bench just because just the way the cookie crumbled at the time with the trade deadline. And you also had a guy who is on a rookie deal in Austin Reeves. So you had 3 pretty much outsiders with LeBron and AD, and
it was about $90 million in salary in 2 guys and about $11 million salary.
Yeah,
3 other guys.
Yeah, and it was like
that's the winning combo.
Yeah, it wasn't like that line from Twins, right, where Arnold and Danny DeVito and the doctor says, "Yeah, I gave one of you all the best," and
the other one
just got the crap. Yeah, but Jamie, somehow, some way, it doesn't matter in the end. It's about who's playing the best and who's playing together. And Lonnie just fit like a glove with the rest of those four guys, man, with limited time playing together.
Mhm.
I mean, and just practice time.
Yep.
That really struck me as well. That they're actually running real practices for this to actually work as well as it did.
And he's not checking out, right? He's not, which is, I don't know if it's, I mean, I've watched a lot of basketball, and I've watched a lot of guys who something happens, somebody gets hurt, and you can see that they're like, I I have to play, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And then they get out on the court and they kind of wander around, and you can see like a point guard, being like, get get move, get in the move, gotta move, and then they're like, okay, where? And then they move somewhere, and then the play breaks down, and it's a bad shot. Lonnie knew his defensive rotations. That's right there, huge. He was not a he was not he didn't need somebody to cover for him. He was covering for people on defense. That's a huge factor in this series, and in a feather that Lonnie should take quite a bit of pride sticking in that cap, because that's just paying attention and listening and working. There's no reward in that. There's no guaranteed reward in that. There was no guarantee like, hey man, 3 games into the series, we're giving you a shot. And I'd even mentioned, I can't remember if it was on the snack pack or one of the post gamers or the late night. I'd mentioned like I could see a space for the idea in this series specifically for Ham to try Beasley 1 game, Troy Brown Jr. 1 game, and Lonnie Walker IV 1 game. Where like you got 15 minutes. Make it work. Make it happen. Make shots, get stops, rebound the ball, create offense, something. Don't stink up the joint. That's it. Don't stink up the joint, And of all those players, Lonnie answered that bell the best so far in this series. And this is a good series for him because there's not a guy like Brooks that's going to be on him. That'll get switched on him. Draymond Green is going to be focused on stopping LeBron, stopping AD, making sure he's involved in that switch somehow. Same with Looney. So now you're going up against Steph Curry, who, I mean, he's not a bad defender, but you don't consider him elite. You used to consider Klay Thompson elite. I think now he's just a good defender. And Jordan Poole is not a good defender, in my opinion. And neither is anybody off their bench. So now you got a guy who has skills to attack the basket with a guy who's not really equipped to stop him in front of him. And he made the right reads, right? This is the hoops 101 stuff that if you're a young player and you're realizing, man, I might not be the most talented guy on the team, that doesn't mean you should stop pursuing your dream. It just means you've got to put in more work, and you've got to make sure that you know the game plan's I's and T's and how they're dotted and when and where. And if you can do those things, there's a reason somebody like Andrew Bogut had a long career, a living tree who could not move very quickly at all. But he understood when to get in position, how to box out. That's why Looney has a career, right? Like Looney has a career because he is a master rebounder. He is an elite rebounder, and that is an unheralded skill in the modern NBA because it doesn't show up on SportsCenter. It doesn't make the rounds on Twitter. Some dude like, David Robinson will be like, oh, my man Looney with 23 rebounds. And Twitter goes, John Morant shoots 16 for 49 and scores 50 points. And you're like, look at the great play, and that's not trying to take away from John Morant's a fantastic player. I love John Morant, but you don't win playoff series on hype and flash. It has never happened. Ever. If anything, teams like the Detroit Pistons and the Chicago Bulls show you that it takes 2 or 3 lunch pail players, guys who show up to work. Yes, they had Michael Jordan, but they also had Horace Grant grabbing rebounds, Dennis Rodman grabbing rebounds, Steve Kerr playing, and Paxson playing great perimeter defense. You need those guys, and the Lakers found that guy last night when they needed him the most, because there's no way, as much as I am enamored with this Laker team, home court is real. and we need to play fewer games to chase. we need to play more games, or at least tie, right? Same number of games. If it gets to game 7, I don't like our chances. So this win was huge. It was. I mean, the Lakers. Let's be honest. The Lakers have been must-win mode since the trade deadline. You could even argue a little bit before. So in a way, this team has been in this
mode,
this flush game, next game, flush game, next game, and like let's bring it. Let's bring this effort in the next game. And they've been good at it. They've been good at it since, the end of February, pretty much. Took them a few days, a couple of weeks, I think, after the trade to like figure out who was playing where and when. And since that time, there's been very little. It's only if somebody like D'Angelo Russell should buy Lonnie Walker dinner for the next week, because Lonnie Walker was able to just sort of like gloss over that 1 for 10.
Yeah, he brought home the bacon and he cooked it up for D'Lo.
Right. D'Lo was like, "I'm sorry, I was partying last night. It's Wednesday. There was a game.
Yeah.
That's Monday. I mean, there was a game. Wait, what?" So that that and today would have been a very different day, right? Lonnie Walker doesn't happen. Everybody's talking about, I don't know, it's D'Angelo Russell, future, maybe that Kyrie Irving guy, pretty good basketball player, duper. Nobody's talking about that today. Nobody cares. Coaching staff probably doesn't care. D'Angelo Russell's great at turning the page. And there it is. His 1 for 10 game was smoothed over by Lonnie Walker, Schroeder. Reeves' solid game he was cold shooting in the first half, but what I love about Reeves is that if he's not scoring points, it doesn't stop him from continuing to play hard and play right. And so that's the thing about this Laker team, is that they're just hungrier. And you saw, if you watched Julius Randle's post-game interview after Miami beat them again, they're down 3-1. When an elite athlete like an NBA player says maybe they want it more, that's an astounding thing to say, because you're talking about there's not a single one of them. I don't care how flippant they are about their career. They still put in hours of work. They still shoot hundreds of jumpers, dozens of free throws, run little, this is where I got my shot. The bounce, this is where I got my. They all do that. All of them. They all put time in the weight room. They all watch film, some more than others, of course, and some with more attention to detail than others, of course. But like when somebody like Randle says maybe they want it more, that's how I feel about the Lakers in both of their series, but without anybody talking about it, without it being like a topic of debate. It's just somebody on the team is hungry to like either make that money this summer, show the world the work that they put in, take that step in their career, land that deal that there's a lot of motivation on this team to perform. And you would say, well, what about last year's team, which was full of 1-year contracts and guys who were like looking to win rings? Everybody on that team last year, for the most part, had been somebody before.
Yes.
They were,
and now they were just a merc looking to try and take advantage of a situation that presented itself.
Correct. And who amongst that group was the rebounder? Who was going to box out? Who was going to take the hardest defensive assignment?
Yeah. Was it going to be Wayne Ellington? It wasn't going to be Carmelo Anthony. No. It wasn't going to be Malik Monk.
No, he was the only one who was hungry last season. The only one. And he showed it, and he got paid. Players saw that, right? The young players of the NBA were like, oh, if I go ball out in LA, I might get more than the MLE. I like money. My family needs money. Money doesn't suck. I'm going to go ball out in LA. So that's why Reeves basically told teams in the late second round, like, nah, don't draft me. I think there were 2 or 3 teams in the late second round that were like, oh, we'll draft you. And he was like,
no,
don't.
Yeah.
Which is astounding, right?
Right.
But that's guaranteed money you're throwing.
You're right. There's like very few of those guys, right? Jamie, Fred VanVleet was another one. He was like, yeah, don't draft me. Don't draft me. Yeah. I'm good.
I got a plan. I'm going for it. And you know what? Credit Credit Austin Reeves. Your plan is working great. Credit Lonnie Walker. You have stayed a pro. You stayed a pro. The guy was starting. He was playing 25 plus minutes per game to start the season. And because we signed a guy with a $16.5 million player, a team option this summer, who's a shooter, was benched, right? Like that's the real, right? Like if we don't get Malik Beasley, Lonnie Walker still has a role in the regular season. Guaranteed. Lakers wanted to see what Malik Beasley could do. They gave him ample opportunity. He never grabbed the bull by the horns. He wasn't hungry. Isn't hungry. Maybe that one deal's. I don't know what drives people. You know, I won't sit here and speculate what drives guys like Malik Beasley versus what drives guys like Lonnie Walker IV. But I can tell you this is that when presented with the opportunity to perform on the biggest stage, Lonnie Walker showed up, and a lot of other guys in that same situation just wouldn't. They wouldn't have the mental acuity to do so.
And Jamie, Alex had a great question for us. He was asking, given all the cliches about do or die, do you think Darvin Ham needs to give the group any extra motivation to try and finish them off Wednesday night in San Francisco, or do you think that these are grown men? They understand the pressure, they understand the situation, and I think there's enough self-awareness among the group that they can just take care of business without any intrusion or interference from external forces.
I mean, I think that yes, I think that's a great question, and B, I think you're right. I think that the second part of what you said is probably the most correct, that these are professionals. They understand that, closing it out sooner than later is always preferable. I mean, the only motivation anyone really should need to take is like the more rested LeBron is, the better the Lakers will be in every series. That, the rallying cry for the Lakers should be get LeBron in the Barca lounger. You know what I mean? For like a week straight, or whatever hyperbaric chamber he inserts himself into in his downtime to freeze his body in carbonite. I mean, whatever it is he does to maintain this level of physical excellence that he's been on. But every minute that LeBron James isn't playing in an NBA basketball game is a minute that he's working on keeping himself ready to play in an NBA basketball game. And so I will take the rust. I will take the rust from if let's say, like I think it will, that Phoenix Denver series goes 7, and we can close this out in 5. That's at least a week of rest. Not on a seat, watching film, dissecting both teams, no matter who comes out, so they knows because what you saw late last night was LeBron. LeBron had the ball in his hands, but he wasn't necessarily looking to score. If a lane presented itself and it was like, I got this, or if there was like late shot clock, or I'm feeling one of my magical 3-pointers, those happen.
And
but
you know what, James?
He actively searched out Lonnie Walker on offense,
and he actively searched out Austin Reeves as well in the third quarter.
Yep.
This is kind of why he should be considered the Amadeus of basketball. Just his composition, the way he can put together like a symphony of basketball weaponry. Yeah. He used Austin Reeves in the third quarter to get both of them going. I'm gonna get myself going by triggering Austin, because when Austin is firing on all cylinders, he's still actively a facilitator. That's what makes him such a weapon as a guard. He's not only focused and aware of his shot, he finds the open man more times than not. And Jamie, they played a great 1-2 man game in the third quarter.
Yeah. After they got us back into it in the third quarter, did, right?
And they both got off to a sluggish start, but you were right, it clicked. And so LeBron is fine. Like, he's never had this, other than Kyrie and and a little bit of Mike Miller in Miami. Jamie, he's never had this.
Maybe J.R. Smith for half a season.
He's literally never had, 2 or 3 ball handlers he could rely on. Say, oh, okay, all right, yep, you guys can initiate the offense because I trust your skills, I trust your instincts, and I can get some rest. He couldn't do that with Norris Cole. He couldn't do that with Mario Chalmers or even Mo Williams. Even Mo Williams.
Yeah, I forgot Mario Chalmers.
So
I mean, he could with D Wade. Like D Wade and Bosch could all get their own shots, but they weren't efficient shots.
No.
I mean, well, D Wade's were more efficient than Bosch. Bosch loved that 15-foot step back fadeaway shot. And when it was on, it was great. When it wasn't, he was kind of ineffective, right? And especially when, it was one thing when he was the best player in Toronto, but when he had to fit in, you were suddenly the holes in his game were kind of revealed. And I always thought that they could have had a better big three if they had managed to swap Bosch for, I don't know how they would have done it. It doesn't matter. But, there's a couple other guys I would have preferred to see there in his slot. I like Chris Bosch. And I feel bad that his career was cut short the way that it was. But I always thought he was like Pau Gasol, a really great secondary player or a really bad superstar. Not like, okay, yeah. I mean, he can put up numbers, but he's not going to be, they do, Serge. They do.
No.
They're tasty. But, Amadeus is a great comparison because, he could do it by himself on the piano. He could write a symphony for an orchestra. He could write, a funeral dirge for a quartet. He could manipulate music how he wanted, when he wanted, for the audience that was there, for the performers that were available to him. That's mastery of a subject, right? You're not like, oh, well, I'm just this great piano player, and if you put a score in front of me, I can play all those notes, no problem. Oh, you want me to write something, or you want me to improvise? LeBron improvises. LeBron composes. LeBron takes a step back. Let somebody else fill in the space. It's an underrated skill to know when to do that. And sure, some of it is luck. Like, again, Lonnie Walker misses a couple of shots. Austin misses a 3. We're talking about a different ball game. Other people need to step into those voids that he when he opens a void, somebody needs to go in and fill it, or it doesn't look so hot in the end. But more often than not, this team has been able to step into those voids. It's not the same guy every time, and that's what makes it hard to game plan. You can't just say like, I'm going to shut down Schroeder. I'm going to shut down D'Lo. I'm going to screen Vanderbilt off Curry and shake him loose, because there's another elite guy or a guy who's at least up to the task of meeting the moment. And that's what makes this Laker team so fun. That's what makes this Laker team so dangerous in the playoffs. I think,
and Jamie, this bench mob reminds me a lot of the 2008 Celtics bench mob, where it's almost every single night it's 2 or 3 guys coming off the bench and producing, and then there's always 1 or 2 other guys who manage to make their presence known.
One day it's Big Baby Davis drooling his way down the court. The next
night it's PJ Brown, and the next night it's Leon Poe, and the next night it's Leon Poe. So the Laker, you're right. It's not just one role player anymore that you can key on and pick on and say, okay, if we shut this guy down, you know what? We really don't have to worry about their bench or their secondary scoring. No, we have to key in on all 4 or 5
guys.
Exactly.
You could argue that whenever we play Troy Brown, that it makes us a little easier to defend, but I feel like he gives us a little more oomph in the paint defense department. And what I loved about game 4 versus game 3 was that Steve Kerr made an adjustment. He said, you know what? we don't play great in the half court against this team. Yes, we're an elite half court team, but they're an elite defensive team. And defense, forces offense to beat it. And that wasn't happening, right? So he changed it up. He's like, well, then let's speed the game up. Let's go back to push. Because if you go back and watch that Sacramento Kings series, they're not pushing the ball up the court. They want to get into half court sets against Sacramento. They killed Sacramento in half court sets. And in fact, they were the best probably half court set team outside of Boston this season, I would say. I don't have numbers, but just that's what by watching the games, a vibe I get. I'm happy to be proved wrong if the internet feels the urge to go out and do so. But it wasn't working. Okay, it's not working against the Lakers. So Kerr threw the kitchen sink at the problem, right? He's like, then let's put our fastest guys in. Let's put our younger guys in. Let's try to run LeBron and AD off the floor, and let's pick up the tempo. And the Lakers, with one adjustment, match that game. So if you're Steve Kerr and if you watched him in his post game last night, I don't often think of Steve Kerr as being very frustrated or like feeling out of his element. He usually seems pretty comfortable. He looks very uncomfortable. He looks very out of his element, and he looks frustrated. And the whole Warriors team looks frustrated. And this, I think, at some point, somebody will bring it up, whether it's Draymond Green or somebody in an interview, probably once the series is over. They'll go back to the free throw numbers and say, like, well, when one team shoots blah, blah, blah free throws to our blah, blah, blah free throws. But you can't compare the torque of a V8 to the speed of a Maserati. These are two different things. The Lakers are a team that plays with torque and power, and the Golden State Warriors are a fast, flashy Maserati.
100%. It
doesn't work that way.
Exactly, 100%. I agree with you. That's a great point. It's often like an F1 fan arguing the legitimacy of the Mercedes, yet without Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes doesn't have over 100 wins.
That's true.
So one hand doesn't necessarily wash the other. You're right, Jamie. It's like you can't compare apples to oranges here. You have to compare apples to actual apples. Like
our ability to get to the free throw line is neutralizing their shot making ability.
Yes. And it's pretty evident. You're right. He is frustrated because at the same time he's criticizing the pace of play and the way the game is being called. And it's hilarious for him to be calling out other people for illegal screens when he's just fine with his guys getting away with, I don't know, about 10 or 12 rubs a game. And
right.
And you see him watch like Clay's shot selection, Jamie, or Jordan Poole, and it looks like he's just about to blow a gasket.
But then he says the right thing in the post gamer.
Right.
His backs, right? Oh, those are good shots for us. We're comfortable with those shots. Those are makeable shots for Clay, and if they go in, we're not talking about this. But that's the point. They didn't, right? And that's why you are talking about it, and that's why. I mean, there was a game. I want to say it was in January. It could have been maybe early February, but I'm pretty sure it was January. There's a game in January where we were up by one. I want to say it was New York, or I think it was Indiana. Indiana comes down, hits a three. We get the ball. We have a timeout. We don't call timeout. Play breaks down. Indy wins the game on a last second shot. And everybody was like, why didn't you call a timeout? He's like, yeah, I had that timeout. But you know what? If I were to go back and do it again, I'd do it the same way. I always feel like coaches in those moments should just actually, I get it. You're just, again, the idea that 5 minutes after a defeat, you need to come and just have this nice, like, conversational tone about, oh, hey, how's everybody doing? Yeah, we just lost. But tea, crumpets, cookies. Everybody got a cookie? Everybody cupcakes? Everybody good? You good? Okay, it's creamer in the corner. We're all good here? All right, great. Let's talk about the game. Fun times, huh? Like, no, you're like trying to figure out, like, where did this go wrong? What would I have done differently? And they'll say like knee-jerk reaction, like, wow, but I'd do it the same way. And I'll bet if given the chance, they'd walk that back in private. They'd be like, I would not do it the same way. Like I would learn from that moment, and that's what I kind of love about Darvin Ham. It kind of doesn't matter in press things, media things. I don't really listen to the words. I watch the person
Mm-hmm.
because there's more in the body language being revealed than in the everybody's going to be like Steve Kerr. Those are our shots. Comfortable with those shots. Those makeable shots. Blah blah blah. But like you're saying, his body language, especially on the court in the moment, those are not good shots in his right. Right. He does not believe it's a good shot in that moment. So
No, and like yeah, it's hilarious, right? Because you're acting like Larry David on the sidelines during this bad shot selection, and then in the post game, yeah, everything's fine, everything's good, or
no problems here.
And I'm not sure. I thought I sent this out, Jamie, but I might not have. But there was a report at the on the Warriors broadcast, their NBC broadcast, their local affiliate there in San Francisco. They reported that everybody in that locker room is looking at Jordan Poole right now, and I'm sure there's a lot like, yeah, right, Jamie, right. There's a lot of guys who are like,
that's the guy we paid.
Yeah, like he's making more than me, and this was a guy who got punched in the face by a teammate, right? And now you're down 3-1. And apparently all eyes were on Jordan Poole yesterday, Jamie, and it wasn't a good look. See, when you're down 3-1 or you're down 3-0, Jamie, you hear it from athletes who've been in that situation before. It's you need to look in the eyes of everybody else in that room, and if there's any kind of doubt in anyone's eyes, we don't have a shot because everybody has to be on the same page, or at least you make me believe. You make me believe that I believe that you believe we can do it.
I think the only team.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I understand they've come back from 3-1 and they've been on the opposite side of that. We've been on the sour side of being up 3-1.
You brought it up on the email chain today about Game 6.
Yeah,
Kobe and Phoenix. No,
yeah, I think
you guys, we gotta win Game 6. We can't. Yeah, we're not winning in Phoenix, you guys. I'm tired.
I know.
Tired.
To me, that was the biggest game in that series. To me, it wasn't Game 7. I think people overanalyze and overemphasize that, especially Kobe's usage in that game. I think it's just it's overanalyzed.
Well, and also that Game 4, he hits that ridiculous shot.
Yeah,
and you think that's it.
You're right.
That's the dagger that we just stuck into the. We just stuck a dagger in the Phoenix Suns, and they are done.
Yeah,
they weren't done.
No, they weren't done. And I think that's kind of the difference when you're down 3-1 on that team to this one is that there weren't any chemistry. You don't hear about any chemistry issues with any team that's ever been down 3-1. It's more external. It's not internal. All those teams that came back all believed.
They have solid cores.
I think there are a few guys in that Warriors locker room who probably do believe they can, Jamie. I just don't think they're all going. It's not one for one and one for all. This isn't the Three Musketeers. I'm not seeing the same kind of unity with them in a loss as I'm seeing with the Lakers. So we still have one more game to go, but they're fragile right now. And if you come out with the right kind of juju in Game 5, you're going to be there in the end, and
that's all you can ask for on the road.
And that's all you can ask for on the road.
Yeah, especially in a hostile playoff environment like Chase, playoffs in general. And the Lakers are you know how Robert Frost has a poem. There are two paths, and I took the one less trod. The Lakers, there were two paths, but way back when they were like, well, we're going to be on the road in the playoffs, and there's no way around it. There's no way around it. The only way, even should we face off against fellow play-in alumnus, the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, we will still be the road team. In every potential series since the playoffs started, the Lakers had the worst record. Other than who was the 8th seed? It wasn't New Orleans. It was
Memphis.
No, Memphis was 3.
Minnesota. Excuse
Minnesota.
me. Yeah,
Only other than Minnesota. Right. It was so long ago we already forgot. It's like 2 weeks. But other than Minnesota, like there's no team that we're not beating anybody. I forget who the 8th seed was in the East. I guess that would have also probably been a potential, but that would have been Atlanta, I think. But
no, Miami is the 8th seed, Jamie.
Miami was the 8th seed, right? So the worst team in the East still has a better record than us. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that they forged a road identity early in the playoffs has been clutch. Has been absolutely clutch, because to a man on that team, they're like, oh, we did this in Memphis. Now we've done it in Golden State. We can do this anywhere. The most challenging environment will be, should it come to it, Denver, because of that first game altitude. And I was talking to my coworker, and he's like, if the Lakers win the series early, they should all just move to Denver for the week. Get used to the altitude.
Get used to the altitude.
Get used to the altitude, so they're like, we're ready. And then even if you have to fly you got to fly to Phoenix, you're like, wow, hey, we're super ready now. We've been in Denver for like a week. And I was like, not the worst idea I've ever heard. Not the worst. Better than, what was it, Colin Cowherd's rest LeBron in Game 5 idea. I was like,
what?
Somebody on ESPN was like,
the Lakers rest their starters in Game 5.
There's no load management in the playoffs, bro. You start that, you push that boulder down the hill, it blows up the playoffs for forever.
I think,
and LeBron would never do it.
No,
he would never do it. He's either playing or he's not. Like, it's not.
Should the 12 ESPN line producers all get total frontal lobotomies for asking a question like that? I would say yes.
But that channel went to the wayside a long time ago.
It did.
Long time ago.
But Jamie, I happened to listen to Legs this morning, Tim Legler, who just happens to be one of the few analysts left at ESPN who just merely discusses the game of basketball and nothing else peripherally around it, because he could care less about what else is going on. He was talking about how he still likes the Lakers in the series. They need to figure out how to contain or mitigate Steph's operation in the pick and roll, because Jamie, in the first half of Game 4, Steph ran 25 pick and rolls. Before that, the most he had ran in any game total was 28. So he was cooking. But Jamie, they let him become more of a facilitator and more of a paced guard than the supernova shooter that Golden State would like him to be, with somebody else picking up the slack, because they had nobody else.
Yeah.
He was trying to find anyone else who could get going. Because if you look at his assists are pretty divvied up pretty evenly. There's not one guy who really ate a lot because of his playmaking.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't like he found Clay every time or hit Jordan every time.
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. It was very sparse when it came to actually effectiveness with other guys. He couldn't get anybody else going, even with his facilitation.
And he scored 30-something points too. Like he still scored the rock. So
yeah,
I mean, this is the thing. I think. Look, I mean, when the Lakers won Game 1, it was with a dominant inside performance, and they kept Steph under wraps ish. Clay had a good game, I think. Jordan Poole had a good game that game, I think. That was the only good game Jordan Poole's had.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I like about the Lakers, I'm okay with the 25 pick and rolls. I'm all right with Steph cooking, and like you said, his assists to the team aren't in the kind of assists where it gets Clay. If it was all to Clay, and Clay dropped 40 points on 7 3-pointers or 8 3-pointers or something ridiculous like that, that's tough to live with. That's tough to mitigate. But if it's, you know, dunk to Looney, floater to Draymond Green, layup to Kuminga or Moody, so yada, 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 that you can live with. And if Curry is the primary playmaker, it further renders Draymond Green obsolete. He's not the offensive threat that he was in the death lineup. He's not, and if he's not making plays, he's basically out there picking up fouls, which is great. That's why we're in the bonus, because Draymond Green is picking up fouls. So, you know, doing things like grabbing AD's arm around his arm and lifting it up high and then being like, it's like, I don't know if you know this, Draymond. We've seen this movie a lot now. This is the problem with your tricks as a veteran, is that eventually people stop. Once the boy has cried wolf, eventually that wolf eats that boy because nobody listens to him anymore. So, you know, that's that. And I feel like that's referees in general. They're like, you know, we've watched this. We've watched this unfold before. You were grabbing his arm and holding it above his head. And like, even let's for a second give Draymond Green the benefit of the doubt and say that that was a mutual, you know, that AD was like, yeah, look, he's got my fucking arm. You know, it goes both ways.
It does.
You don't want a reputation, don't earn one.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't earn one.
He's got it, and he's etched himself into the consciousness of these refs that no matter what call I make in this situation, this guy is just gonna go ape on me. And so be it.
Sometimes even when you call the call that he wants, he still like flies into a rage, and then somebody has to be like, bro, they called it for you. He's like, yeah, but I'm still angry. And it's like,
and I'm sure you noticed the same thing yesterday too, Jamie. It looked like Steve Kerr was going to call a preemptive timeout as he was just maniacally screaming at the refs to try and calm him down, so they didn't pick up a silly technical foul that would have cost them.
Get him thrown out. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. This team, this Laker team, with many of these guys who haven't been to the playoffs before or been in this type of, you know, situation in the playoffs, they're showing a lot more poise, a lot more maturity than the quote unquote veteran, been there before, experienced, savvy, yada yada yada, Golden State Warriors team. And that, I mean, other than Steph, who's always like pretty cool, Clay looks like he's about to blow a gasket. Poole's always whining. You know, Looney, you know, his face, he goes like this.
It's like, very possible that Draymond Green could pull a Bubba Wells on Wednesday and just decide, I'll pick up 4 fouls in about 6 minutes, and just send me to the locker room. I'm done. It's very possible, now, depending on how he feels.
Let's real quick talk about what left is there for her to try. The only thing I can think of is benching Jordan Poole and going with one of the bigger, play a little bit more, match up a little bit better the power game of the Lakers. Maybe you can go like Thompson, Curry, Wiggins, Kuminga, Green, or because JaMychal Green just doesn't have it. There's a reason he's a journeyman. He got you game 2. Like, let it be.
Yeah, no, you're right. That would likely be the only other option.
This is what's left, right? Like,
is to sit Poole and have him come off the bench, because he's already inserted Looney into the starting lineup. Then he put him back on the bench. He's had Gary Payton II on the bench, and then he decided he was going to start. So you're right,
great game.
He did. So
I don't know.
No, you're right. That's really the only option they have left, because they've emptied out the tank. They've done everything they can.
Don't you feel like they've thrown the kitchen sink almost?
I have. They've thrown every kind of side pick and roll you could throw at a team. They've thrown every kind of off-ball screen you can throw at a team. And they've done it, inverted. They've done it north to south. They've done it east to west. They've
Cool.
gone over like every single part of the court, and yeah, nothing's working consistently anyway. Because look, Jamie, there were a lot of people who were very, very hesitant to give AD his flowers because they had anticipated with a team like the Warriors and with their ability to have a motion offense and then create off ball chaos that almost AD was in a precarious situation. He was damned if he do and damned if he doesn't because he would ultimately have to be in two places at once. But for the most part, other than game two, him and Vando and LeBron have been able to keep that front court as like a double yo-yo from baseline to baseline.
Yeah.
So I really don't see any like I was asking Tom the same thing like you asked me like is there anything else you can think of and Tom had just mentioned he thought maybe if they went fire wagon basketball and we're just gonna roll pick and roll ad nauseum and put up 110 shots. But I mean, they've tried that already too in the first two games with mixed results.
I can only think of two things. One is benching Poole in favor of bigger players. The other is same lineup, but move Curry back off ball and give the ball to Wiggins and see if he can, because he's supposed to be also the next, the next up and comer, right? Everybody wants
Right.
to harp on Poole because Poole already got paid. Wiggins got paid. And he's had a pretty mediocre series. Like he has not had an impact game. He hasn't played poorly. I would say. I think he's always putting up decent numbers, decent efficiency, playing decent defense. But for what you expect out of that level of talent, and I get it. He had a up and down end of the year. And maybe there's a lot of that still going on, and that's affecting his on-court performance. And if so, that's unfortunate. But it's playoffs. They're not going to wait for you.
Yeah,
they're not going to wait for you to. They're not going to wait for you to feel good. So you got to make a choice, right? You got to make a choice to like try to put whatever it is that's in the brain. Put it in the bucket. It'll be there when you get back. Put it back in when you get off the court. If you can compartmentalize life like that, not everybody can. But I can't think of one thing that I'd be like, oh well, they haven't tried this. They've tried it. It's like you said, let's start at the top of the court. Let's start from the angle. Let's start from the baseline. Let's go from the baseline to the top of the court to the angle.
They've been very scientific with their sets and their shot selection, just based on the defense that they're up against. And Jamie, again, you've mentioned this countless times before. A great player doesn't necessarily need validation as an award for credentials or for their persona. AD is the best defensive player in the NBA. There's,
right.
I'll do respect to Giannis. Giannis, you were out in 5 games. Yep. AD's still playing. He's up 3-1 in a series. He will likely probably never win a Defensive Player of the Year award, Jamie, just based on the bias of being a 7-foot savant who can put the ball on the floor, has arms up to the moon. It's just, plays beside LeBron James, even though we all know, and nobody wants to say this, we all understand this is AD's team now. We go as AD goes. I understand what everybody was trying to talk about last night about how, LeBron, the energy level wasn't there. I disagree. I think the energy level was there. I think this is just a case of a 38-year-old man the spirit is willing. It's so willing. He wants to win. It's just the flesh is the flesh. It's 38 years old. It's been beaten up. It's been hardened. It's softer now.
Dude, it's
softer. But
not the years. It's not the years. It's the miles.
But he knows this team goes as AD goes. It's not the other way around with LeBron. Even LeBron understands that at this point.
I agree. I think that's absolutely true. And that's the problem, is that the Warriors don't have. I don't think there's a team in the league that, even if you stop AD on offense, even if you keep him to 10 shots, he only makes 4 or 5, not too many free throws. And then he says after the game, "Oh, well, my shots, and yada yada." If he's still having an impact on defense, and if he's still rebounding the basketball, which he has pretty much done in every series, I think you can point at 2 games where I don't feel like he put effort forth on the defensive end that I know he's capable of. One was in Memphis, one was game 2 against Golden State, where I thought he just really kind of took the game off. He was there. He was on the court. I saw him, but he just didn't seem very engaged. You can't counter that. There's no move that counters AD playing great on defense. There's none. You have to score from the out. You have to score away from AD, which generally means a jump shot, which is now considered a terrible shot because it's inefficient. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Is I think maybe Tom's onto something. If the Warriors pick and pop 15 to 20 feet in, not quite taking it to the paint, but not just settling for threes, maybe that works for a game. Maybe it works for 2. Is that enough?
It seems game to game that Jamie Darvingham and I think AD especially are just able to match what they're doing defensively. They're just able to make counters. And like you said, like, how are you supposed to counter what AD can do? He turns around. That's, you've almost got an 8-foot wingspan.
Yeah,
that's
mobile.
That's mobile, and you only have a radius of about 12 feet to try and make a decision. It's difficult.
Huge zone of control. His zone of control that he influences is massive, and that's it. It's like having Darth Vader, right? Like Darth Vader's in the paint, like and you're like, okay, well, we can't get past Darth Vader. Let's try to shoot threes, I guess. At least he won't cut me in half. Like that, you can't go through Darth Vader in the paint. So that's what teams are kind of going to have to game plan against. The only team that's going to give us any problem, I'm not as worried about Phoenix as I am about Denver. If Denver comes out of that 6-7 game series with Phoenix, they'll have. That's a great test for them. No team is going to apply offensive pressure on a defense like the Suns. For the Lakers, I feel like AD and Jokic kind of neutralize each other, right? Like, now is LeBron better or D'Lo better than Jamal Murray? I don't know if they are anymore. I mean, that's a game-to-game
situation. Right? Yep.
One game, especially because all the home games are going to be in Denver. So Jamal Murray is going to probably light it up in Denver, and we won't in game 1 because we'll be like, especially LeBron will be like, I'm very tired after this game. It's very high in the altitude's killing me. So that's for the Lakers. I hope Phoenix comes out of that series. Honestly, I think we have better defensive matchups against Phoenix.
I think Denver needs to figure out some other game plan for Devin Booker, Jamie, because look, KD's going to do what he does. He's going to get to the free throw line, 15 to 20 times a game for the however many this goes, 2 or 3.
Great point, Richard.
And they need to. I would switch defenses a little bit, Jamie. I would put Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr. on Devin Booker, add a lot more length, and just put more emphasis and just bait him into more drives because they're just living they're just living in the mid range. And when you've got Landry Shamet, who's confident enough to hit
Yeah.
those threes, it's going to be tough. But I expect Denver to adjust because somehow I think the Joker's going to figure out a way to
Oh,
discombobulate them defensively. And I think Denver wins game 5.
that's what he does, man. That's what he does. I think the home. I think I think no team will win on the road in that
I
series.
agree with you.
I think that Phoenix is just so good at home. Book gets that little extra from the crowd. Like you say, KD is cool. He's going to do what he does. He knows where his shots are coming from. He knows how to get to the rim. He knows how to create contact, possibly draw a foul, and he's not afraid to make a pass. I just think that unless you have like some kind of eruption from DeAndre Ayton or campaign, that Phoenix just doesn't have enough to win in Denver. I think that, those 10 free throws KD gets in Phoenix goes down to like 5 in Denver. Same with Book, although he hasn't really been getting to the line much. He's just hitting buckets. And that's the one thing you got to worry about. Like if Devin Booker brings the fire in his hands from the valley to the mountains, he could. That's the one thing is Phoenix could shoot their way into one win if enough guys are hot and you get like something where Ayton matches Joker's intensity. I don't really see that happening. Jokic is too good. Murray is too good. Michael Malone is too good of a coach. And the Suns lost a lot of their depth when they traded for KD. And I don't think, this is what we're talking about is the Lakers' strength, right? Like Booker and KD are like AD and LeBron, right? Like they're gonna get it done. Who else? 2 is not enough. This isn't Laverne and Shirley. We can't do a whole show about 2 people. You need a team. You need the A team. You need 4 or 5. You need 4 or 5 strong. And Phoenix ain't got no A team. Denver's got an A team. Michael Porter Jr. can go off. Aaron Gordon can hit some shots. Jamal Murray's on fire. Yeah, more at home than on the road, but that's to be expected. So that's the same with D'Angelo Russell, right? That's like kind of the X factor home away. Nikolai's good everywhere. Put him in one of those, bathysphere suits with a tube, and he's going to be like, dude's just great at basketball. But like, that's the only team I worry about. That and Boston, just because it's Boston, not because of the personnel, just because of the pressure that will come with playing those games. Should it come to that?
And speaking of that series, Jamie, that's now best of 3, and
best of 3, and
we head back. We head back to Boston, and you know what, Jamie? I realized that there's this romanticism that a lot of basketball fans have, and a lot of I'm hearing it from their side too. Lakers and Celtics fans just want to see each other in the finals. I really don't want to see them. I don't care about them. They can F off.
No,
I hope the Sixers beat their ass, but if it happens to come that just by happenstance and fate that the Lakers and Celtics find each other in the finals for number 18, that's the way it should be.
That's what I was going to say.
That's the way it should be.
There's a synchronicity in poetry to that matchup that is undeniable. 100%. I will say this. I would be okay. First off, I want to apologize to Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. I was wrong. You guys are going to steamroll the Knicks.
Yeah, we all were.
Right here. My bad.
Yeah, right? We all were, Jimmy. We all were wrong.
I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan. I don't know why I doubted you. You're way better than everybody on New York. It's too bad you're not a Knick. I want, you know what it is that I feel it's like the Minnesota Vikings, or like one of those teams that's never won a Super Bowl where you're like, and the Knicks have won an NBA championship, but it's just been so long since they were relevant. And like, it's just so much more interesting when the Knicks are like a top 8 team, top 5 team, right? And like Randall kind of came back to All-Star Randall this season for the most part. You were like, oh, all right, now we got a little something going on here. That has all been undone by heart and grit. The heart and grit that Miami plays with is astounding. I think you guys were talking about, it was maybe the snack pack with Tom yesterday where you were talking about, Spo belongs on the Mount Rushmore of coaches. 100%. People, I remember in the bubble on the blog, like when we were playing Miami, everybody was like, I'm tired of hearing about, the Heat culture and the Heat way and the Heat this and that. And I'm like, the reason you're tired of hearing about it is it's a lot like how San Antonio was in the late 90s, early aughts. There was a Spurs way, and it worked. And it's because they had a superstar who was also a workhorse. Like, he didn't shy away from the work. It didn't need to be pretty or easy. It was almost better for the Spurs when it was hard. And that's how the Heat are. They're like Wolverine. Please punch me in the face so I can get pissed and fight even harder. And then the claws come out. Now I'm cutting you up with claws. Like, did you really want to get into this fight? And then no, I don't. Please stop beating me up. And that's how the Knicks look right now, right? Like, you see them in the post game and they're like, we're really tired of getting beat up. We think we're fighting hard, but it's not working. And so we're kind of done. And that's the mind game of the playoffs. You think you've hit whatever it is you need. You think you've rung a bell, but unless there's a W attached to it, you've done nothing. You tried hard, maybe.
Yes. And that's why you could tell, Jamie, that Julius Randle's so frustrated. Yes. I'm sure Tibbs and the rest of that group are frustrated as well because, wait, we're supposed to be the physical team, right? And they're schooling us physically. Like
every possession.
What was so ironic, Jamie, is that there was a stat up that said in the fourth quarter, the Heat had 8 offensive rebounds and the Knicks had 1.
Yeah.
And the one offensive rebound that the Knicks did have was Mitchell Robinson, who just happened to have it slip out of his hands and go out of bounds for a turnover. That was their only offensive rebound. And it kind of told the story about just kind of their effort and lackadaisical execution. Yeah. And Jamie, Tibbs that's done. Yeah. Tibbs has never won a series when he's been down 3-1, so I don't expect he's going to be able to make any kind of adjustments.
And I don't think
to win
Spo
3
has
in a row.
lost many series when he's up 3-1.
Yeah, maybe no,
like
he's won one. Yeah,
one, right?
Yeah, just one.
That's the mark of a great coach. And listen, Miami's got a great game plan, right? Kyle Lowry found the fountain of youth, even though he's dragging that left leg around like it's a wrapped in mummy bandages, but like,
and hey, all team player too. I'm making $30 million. I don't care if I come off the bench. Fine. I don't give a rip.
Let's win.
I don't give a rip. Let's win. That's the perfect attitude. That's the credit. And again, I know a lot of
Lonnie Walker attitude, right?
Yeah, Lonnie Walker attitude, the Russ attitude. Fine. Right. I'll come off the bench and rip you up. Fine.
Whatever, and as long as there's a W next to in the column, it's all worth it.
So
that
Jamie,
with Russ,
we now know that the Sixers or Celtics go into a best of 3 tonight. Do you think
Philly, right? No, tonight's in Boston.
Boston. Do you think that Philly can win 2 out of the next 3, Jamie? And specifically, do you think it's possible for them to win both games in the Boston Garden?
Get it done in 6.
I think they're going to have to get it done in 6.
Philly has to get it done in 6. They're not winning Game 7 in Boston.
I don't think they are either.
No, they have to win tonight. They have to win tonight, and then they have to follow it up with a dominant win in Philly, or at least it doesn't have to be dominant. It just has to be a win. But with a win in Philly. If you go back to Boston for Game 7, you're asking for it. It's going to take a phenomenal performance from Embiid and Harden and Maxey, and that's just going to be a slugfest. It's just going to be a slugfest.
Plus, the refs are going to be swallowing their whistles every time.
They're going to show up to the game and be like, "Can you believe it? I brought these sunglasses, but not my whistle." So I'm
right.
If you hear it, we'll stop playing. If not, just keep going. I'm probably not going to do that a lot anyway. So good luck.
Yeah, they need to wrap this up at 6. I think
Harden needs to have like 3 great games in a row.
He does.
He had one 2 days ago. He needs to have another one tonight, and he needs to, because Embiid will get 30 points and Embiid will get 12 rebounds, and it's just going to happen because of how great he is. It's like Kareem, right? You're almost, you look at the stat line and you're like, when did he score 30 points? But it just, tip in, jump shot, layup, 5 free throws in a row, dunk, 3, 30. He gets 30 in his sleep, right? He gets 30 in his sleep.
And you know what, Jamie? It feels like if he gets 30, they're not necessarily a threat to win necessarily, because you don't know what kind of game you're going to get from Harden. Maxi's likely going to give you, his 15 to 20.
Tobias Harris, 8
Tobias
points
Harris, yeah. Georgie Niang, same thing. But they're all over the place. Yeah, you just never, like, their bench is a box of chocolates. But they're not the good chocolates. They're the expired. They're the expired chocolates, and you open it up, it kind of looks moldy. That's Philly.
There's a weird nut in there, and you're like,
is that nougat or what is that? Yeah, that's what Philly's bench is. Yeah, like, really good. And so you're right, Jamie. Like, there's no.
It all hinges on Harden. It all hinges on James.
It does.
Doc's got to figure it out. Do I need to send him a gospel song today? Do I need to send him to the club? I hope Doc pushes the right buttons, because I really just would like, no matter what happens, I would like for both those. I would like for all the series that don't involve the Lakers to all go 7 games from here on out. That's all I care about. And I want the Lakers to be done in 5 or 6. Like, that's.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's it.
Everybody else, soften yourselves up for us. If we play eventually, yeah.
We got an old guy who needs an extra day on the lounge chair out back, sipping lemonade, watching the kids running the sprinkler or whatever they do at the James household when there's not playing basketball games. But I mean, I bet there's actually probably basketball James in the James household of some kind or another, even if it's like horse in the pool or the hot tub or something. But I think, I hate to say it, but I think Boston ends up pulling that series out. Obviously, I think Miami's going to finish New York off probably in Game 6 back in Miami. I think New York has pride and wins this next one at the Garden.
They should. They should for their
just for their fans.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could find a way to push it to 7, that would be kind of like hey, you didn't lay down and die.
No.
Good job. But I have a real hard time seeing them overcome this 3-1 deficit they're in now. And I mean, they got nobody but themselves to blame. They just haven't shown up with the right focus or the right strength. I mean, let's be honest. That series is a mud fight. It reminds me of those, and you ever see Gangs in New York, where Leo DiCaprio's character has the idea, like the street boxing is getting shut down.
Yes,
put it on a barge out in the harbor. Nobody regulates things out there. May the bloody badge continue.
Yeah, bare knuckle boxing. Series, yes.
Bare knuckle boxing on a barge in the bay is exactly what that series reminds me of. Like, I'll watch Jimmy Butler go like, and then Randall will do the same. Like, it's not all one-sided, but like, you're just like, this is playoff basketball on the East Coast. And this is something that those Knicks players just
and this
is a challenge.
Right, Jamie, 100%. And this is kind of what we've been talking about, like the Hoopers, the guys of us who actually watch the game, is that even though the style of play has changed significantly, there are still some teams and some players collectively that no matter what, playoff basketball is just different from an intensity point of view. And some guys, just for whatever reason, whatever sport it is, they just don't rise up to that level of intensity in the playoffs as they do in the regular season, when everybody's a little bit more loosey-goosey and people can, you can do your thing. We're all trying to get paid and be seen in that. But in the playoffs, It's about winning, and it's about limiting time and space and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, especially with the physicality.
Right.
And we've seen it in a couple of series already, Jamie. Golden State is not comfortable being uncomfortable playing a physical
Yeah.
style of basketball with the Lakers, and Boston at times is
No.
not comfortable being
Miami's
uncomfortable.
comfortable. Miami's
Yes,
comfortable.
but Miami and the Lakers, the two bubble teams, are
I
so
know.
comfortable with this playoff intensity and their ability to create havoc.
It would be kind of amazing if two play-in teams, the 7th seed in the West and the 8th seed in the East, vied for the NBA title.
That would be so cool. That
It would
be
be
so
really cool. I know that, like, from a ratings or a historical or whatever other metric you want to measure things by, maybe not the coolest, but just from the standpoint of, like, you can do it. It's like the Rudy Tomjanovich coach, the heart of a champion. Like, nobody thought that Rockets team was going to go all the way that year. Wouldn't it be something if the two teams that for most of the year sputtered and coughed their way through the entire regular season as if it was, like a swap meet they were walking through, met in the NBA Finals? I don't think it's going to happen. I think either Philly or Boston has enough, both talent and moxie wise, to take out Miami. If it's Philly, it's a little bit more edge to Miami, I guess. But I have a hard time seeing Miami get past. I mean, I wasn't sure Miami was going to get past Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Neither did I. Right. It was
it was one of those things where I was like, Trae Young might just outshoot Miami.
But it just emphasizes
built for the playoffs, though.
He is. Well, he said it himself. He's like, I'm not built for 82 game season. I'm built for the playoffs. Get me to the playoffs, and that's when I deliver for you.
That's when
and
I
he's
start
right.
Is it coffee? Anyone? I meant great coffee.
But you know what, Jamie? It goes back to what a lot of people have emphasized, and you've emphasized this a lot, is that there's no magic button that you could just press for this on off as far as your want, the intensity. Like we talked about the will, right? And you're right, Joe's right, Tom. Everybody's got the will. Like everybody has gotten to the NBA. You made it to the NBA. We know you're good.
You're good.
How bad do you want it now?
Right. Now it's a question of this and this.
I'm not trying to get all deep and all that, but the two noble truths of the Buddha, right? Existence is suffering, and suffering is caused by desire. So you have to be willing to suffer for your dreams. That's a Kobe Bryant quote. You have to be willing to suffer for your dreams. And some guys,
some excellent wisdom you're dropping there, man. This is
I appreciate it, And the playoffs are just not built for everybody. Only many are called, few come out the other side.
That's true. That's what's funny about, and it's true in all sports, right? Like you've got regular season performers who like give me a game plan. We're doing this for a game. I'm going to kick butt. It's awesome. But then you see, especially I feel like probably the most in baseball, where some guy, maybe he doesn't even start the games, right? But like you put him up at the plate in the 7th inning with the guy on second, and he hits a 2-run bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a 180 hitter for the season,
right?
And I couldn't catch a ball if it was hit right at him in the regular season. Come playoffs, he makes a diving backhanded grab for
like Troy Glaus, your old buddy Troy Glaus.
Oh yeah, Troy Glaus. It was always a regular season disappointment, but man, did he match Bonds homer for homer when the title was on the line? And without those dingers, there's no one World Series championship for my Los Angeles, California Angels of Anaheim. It's you're exactly right. You know, it's the desire and the willingness to suffer for that prize is an unquantifiable trait.
Yeah, you can't.
You only see it when it reveals itself, right? And it only reveals itself if you're able to get this far. So there's this whole paradox of like, well, we need the right guys to get through the regular season, but then we also need some of those kind of guys that work well in the postseason. And that's why I will never envy an NBA GM, because you're given so few tools to make such a limited amount of roster space work perfectly in both the regular season and the postseason, because all the best teams are out except for Boston.
That's it.
And Phoenix. Well, no, what was Phoenix? Phoenix 6th seed?
Yes. No, they were the fourth seed.
They were the fourth.
Yep.
Right.
They were the fourth.
Right. They were the 4th seed. So there's one top 4 team in Philly. Philly was a top 4 seed, right?
Yep. That's it.
It's half bottom feeders at this point and half top seeds at this point, top 4 seeds. And if you were just to base things off the regular season, you would say like, no way.
No way.
It's gonna be Bucks, Boston, and Atlanta and Philly, and it's gonna be Memphis, Sacramento, and Phoenix and Denver. And it wasn't that. No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. And that's some of it's, those guys are going to learn on those other teams. Milwaukee, I don't know. Something imploded in Milwaukee and nobody made news of it. And we may never find out for like a year or so. But something happened.
Yeah.
Somebody did something. It was like that year where it was like, what was I forget his name. Was rumored to be sleeping with LeBron's mom, and like whether that was
Delonte West,
Delonte West, that whole thing where you were like after the playoffs came out, like there was that like kind of weird sort of like, is that even true?
Yeah.
Even if it's not, that's the kind of thing, like if that's being talked about in the locker room, and that's what you're talking about, like if we're not all like this, if there's a little bit of this or a little bit of that or a fracture here or a fracture there, those things crumble in the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened to those Cleveland teams. And
yes,
I would imagine that's why LeBron was like, I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
And that, to me, that wasn't even the most funny and dysfunctional story about Cleveland's cast of outcast Jamie. I think the best one was J.R. Smith throwing a bowl of soup at Damon Jones.
Amazing.
That probably has to be the best one.
Especially when he talks about it now in real time, when he's like, oh, yeah, I did that. And he'll say like, and he deserved it. And Damon Jones will be like, yeah, I deserved it. They're both like, we didn't like each other.
Yeah,
we didn't like each other very much back then.
It was kind of even-handed there.
Oh yeah, or like Gilbert Arenas bringing a gun.
Oh my God!
Things like that. Right?
Our old pal Javaris Crittenden, who's
Hibachi himself,
who still thinks that if he put on a pair of sneakers right now, he could still torch LeBron for 56 again.
Oh, the Critter?
No, Gilbert. Sorry, Gilbert.
Yeah, he might. He might. He need a couple weeks.
He could still put it up. I'll admit that.
I'll bet him and Jamal Crawford are good for 20. They can't get on the court to play defense, but if you just leave them down there on offense and get them the ball, they're good for like 20 points on catch and shoot threes alone. Maybe at 15. Let's go 15. 15 is more reasonable.
Absolutely. So we're going to leave it there for now. This was a great snack pack. Want to thank my good friend
lunch break
from Lakerholics.com, Mr. Yami Swoop, for joining me, giving us his incomparable opinions about the NBA and life in general. One of my best pals.
Likewise, man.
Managed to talk to me for an hour and a half. I appreciate his time. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be back tonight and tomorrow.
I'm just looking at some of the comments that people are talking about what's behind me. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, no. But he's secure. Jamie Sweet is secure right now. And everybody, this was a great snack pack. Talk to you later. And see you tonight.